Hey everybody, welcome to Dog Backwards. Does Bethel actually have verified miracles happening at their church and their school for supernatural ministry? That's a question I want to ask. This, you might notice, is a little bit shorter than our normal episodes that we put out about once a month. Usually I try to bring somebody on, we interview them, we talk about a book they just wrote, things of that nature. And coming up in February, we have Mark Moore. He wrote Core 52, plus a commentary on Acts that I really enjoyed. And we have a couple of other guests coming up. But I wanted to take the time to look at a subject that I hadn't seen anybody else covered, and all because of an article I found that's a couple of years old, but I think it's really relevant. If you're not familiar with Bethel Church, I don't know how, but if you're not familiar, Bethel Church is one of the largest and fastest growing churches in the prosperity gospel, hyper charismatic. Like, they were kicked out of the Assembly of God for being a little too cuckoo. And the Assembly of God churches, those are my brothers and sisters. I believe in spiritual gifts. I'm not what's often called a cessationist, meaning that I think people still get healed. I still think miracles happen. But Bethel Church, due to their music, has exploded. And a lot of people listen to their pastor, Bill Johnson. Now, some of the things that he says are flat out heretical, and I question whether or not he's even a believer. Just recently, Bethel Church got a lot of advertisement, maybe in a negative way, for having Kenneth Copeland on. Kenneth Copeland is the old school, one of the great televangelists that for most of my life, no one has taken seriously in traditional Christianity and Orthodox Christianity. We've always seen him as like a sideshow freak because that is what he is. His teachings about who God is and who you are totally counter to what Scripture says. He basically says, you are a little God and your words can manifest reality. And because he has spoken richness over his life, he's got a couple of jets. There's video clips of him telling people to put their hands on their head and say, hair grow. And because you're a little God, you should be able to command the hair on your head to grow. Now, that would be a neat trick if it worked. My hairline is not receding. It is running in the opposite direction. But it never works. And you can find videos. Just go to YouTube after this video is over with and type in Kenneth Copeland fake miracles or things like that. There's videos of him trying to heal somebody in a wheelchair. Now, typically, if you go to a Kenneth Copeland revival, those in the wheelchair are put off to the side. It's the people up front who have a sore neck or maybe their back is a little sore. Miracles that he can do that aren't verifiable. But people with no legs or shriveled legs in a wheelchair, they're put off to the side because it's bad for his image. Well, there was a gentleman that he laid hands on in a wheelchair and he fell backwards. It's quite traumatic. And the guy is, please, Jesus, please heal me. And he doesn't get healed. And Kenneth Copeland just, when he falls back, everyone's like, oh my gosh. Kenneth just, he's okay. And he goes right on to the next person. There is no miracles that Kenneth Copeland does. Well, he just taught at Bethel. And for a long time, people were like, no, Bethel's different than that. Don't lump them in together just because Bill Johnson spoke at a Kenneth Copeland revival. They're different. Bill Johnson's the real deal. They're all snake oil salesmen. And this is what we've been saying for a while. But Bethel claims to have miracles, like real miracles all the time. You can find video testimonials of their miracles. In fact, on their website, they have miracles listed in their testimonies page. So let me bring that up. I want to share that with you real quick. We're going to go to Bethel. Here is their testimonial page. And just a couple of days ago, this is today's January 24th when I'm recording this. On January 20th, they had somebody healed of cerebral palsy. Now, if that is a real miracle, if that really happened, that's incredible because that's not like, oh, my back kind of hurts. That's a disease that you would be able to tell if somebody went from this to this. It would be immediate. It'd be miraculous. I would want to know if that's real. Now, just because if a miracle actually does happen doesn't give credence to the things that Bill Johnson teaches, but it would make me want to go, man, is there something that I'm missing? But let's look at some of these other things that are on here. The other healing that we have, it's not every day, but yet every week at their church, they claim people are getting healed in massive numbers. We have to go back to September 16th. So January, all the way back to September, somebody healed of traumatic brain injury. What about you go to August, and then you go from August 22 all the way to June 28th. So that's a pretty big gap. And notice there's maybe just a couple a year. There's not really that many. And some of them are mysterious cough healed, which means I had a cough and I don't know why, but it's not there anymore. And that is to them such a big miracle that, hey, let's post that on our testimonial page. Notice there's really not that many. You go to 2019, there's not and then 2018, there's maybe 9 a year for a place that has a school, a supernatural ministry where healings happen all the time. There's not very many on their website. And then you have things, hearing God's voice for themselves. What does that mean? Coming into alignment. Oh, here's another, coming into alignment. A couple of healing of fibromyalgia. My knee injury was healed. Out of a coma and going home. Well, that's one that you could verify. Is there any evidence for that? Do we have the doctor paperwork that they were in a coma? They had been in it for, I don't know, just 3 days. And then somebody came and laid hands and prayed for them. Boom, they woke up and they're going home. God is always on time. Range of motion restored in knees. I couldn't bend my knee all the way. Now I can. What's interesting, and before I get to the article that I really want to look at, you can browse by categories on their testimonial page. Now remember, Bethel is a prosperity gospel church, which means not only do they believe that you should be healed. Bill Johnson has said, I refuse to believe in a theology that allows for sickness. And in unpacking some of their beliefs in some of these Q&A videos he has, he believes that every believer should be fully healed, and that the reason we don't get healing, one of the main reasons you don't get healed, is because there is unconfessed sin. Now, this is the reason that people like me go so hard after Bethel, because what it's saying is if you have cancer and you don't get cured, it's because it's your fault. You have a sin. You have a sin, or you have too little faith. It puts the tragedy that somebody is going through, responsibility on their shoulders, instead of we live in a broken world where people get sick. And what is death to begin with? Isn't death just a sickness? But I've never seen anybody from Bethel live past 150 years. Right? They're all going to die. What happened to Lazarus? Jesus raised him from the dead, but what eventually happened? He died. All healings are temporary. But in our culture, full of the flash and glamour and hype of healings, we go, oh my gosh, if a healing takes place, that means I have God's favor. What if what the healing scripture really wants isn't physical, but spiritual, one that lasts forever instead of one that's temporary? But so not only does Bethel say you should be healed, but you should also be financially well off. That's the prosperity gospel. Financially, physically, and spiritually whole. Let's just go to their financial testimonies, testimonies about finances, and let's see what we find. No related testimonies found. Now we saw, I didn't go all the way back, but we had 2019. And so we could go all the way back to 2019 and not a single person that says, because I have given $10,000 to Bethel, like they said, I planted my seed offering, my business grew, I paid off my mortgage, I'm now a millionaire, me and Kenneth Copeland are flying airplanes together. Nobody has those testimonies. You know why? Because it's a pyramid scheme. Bill Johnson is extremely wealthy. Chris Valentin, the associate pastor guy who's head of the Supernatural School of Ministry, who says he is a prophet like Old Testament prophets. That's what he is. He makes predictions. He makes predictions about who's going to be president. And then when he's wrong, he walks it back a little bit, but says, but don't worry, just being wrong doesn't disqualify me as a prophet. Unless you read the Bible, where it says that if a prophet is wrong about anything, you don't need to fear this man because he's not a real prophet. They just changed the goalpost. So let me bring up this other article here because I think it is really interesting. All right, so this is about Bethel Claims Miracles. What proof do they have? So Bethel points to their website and says, here is our miracles. Now, there is an organization. It is called Global Medical Research Institute. And what they do is they go to different churches that claim to be doing miraculous work. And it is a nonprofit Christian organization. So this isn't like pagans come and say, we don't believe this. This is people who are looking for the evidence that these miracles actually happen. But what they want to do is they want to submit them to peer-reviewed journals in such a way that the evidence is overwhelming, that shows that God is still at work and people do get healed. So if you're a part of an organization like that, where do you go? Do you go to your just normal church every day and ask how often are you praying for miracles? I'm sure they do some of that, but they go to Bethel that claims miracles happen all the time. And what they are looking for is candidates who qualify to be examined that have enough documentation that it would be good for a peer-reviewed article. So they've been, the article says, and I'll leave a link to it at the bottom, that they've spent over 3 years at Bethel with full access. Bethel does not pay them, and they are not associated with Bethel in any way. But Bethel says, yeah, come take a look at our miracles. We want to prove that we are who we say we are, and we can do what we say we do. Now, there's some criteria that people need to meet. They're just not going to take anybody. They're going to look for somebody that has a medical history. Say if you have Parkinson's or some other disease, maybe you have cancer, stage 4 pancreatic, whatever it is, that you have medical documentation showing that you had this real legitimate physical condition or sickness. You went to Bethel, they prayed for you, and it was immediately gone. You've gone back to the doctor, they've done the scan, and they say, the cancer is gone. We can't explain it. We don't know what happened. So that's what they're looking for. And all that is there any proof behind the claims that have been made? So think of how big Bethel's church is, how many people come from all over the world to receive healing at this place. I mean, they have straight up healing services. How many people do that? And after this time, they have looked at all of these people, and you know how many miracles Bethel has been able to prove that they've done? Your guess is probably the same as mine. It's a big fat zero. Full access, looking at everybody that comes to them and says, hey, have you actually been healed? Well, my neck hurt. Did you have any documentation? No, it was just sore that morning from the way I slept on my pillow. And were you healed? Yeah, I think so, but it is still a little kind of sore. Well, then you're not a candidate for this documentation to be submitted to a peer-reviewed journal. And so don't you just find that interesting? And I don't know why this article hasn't gotten more traction. The date of it is 2022, February 13th, 2022 is when this article was released. And it's just Shasta Scout. So this is just a small independent journalist who doesn't really take a side, isn't trying to be like, see, Bethel is evil. They're just more interested in the Global Medical Research Institute. And here's what it says. They're an independent nonprofit group of doctors and scientists that investigate claims of healings and has been working in partnership with the church since 2017 to verify some of the claimed healings at Bethel. The organization conducts research processes to investigate the medical effects of prayer and seeks to publish their results in peer-reviewed medical and scientific journals. Tesoro indicated that 2 GMRI case reports were recently published in such journals, although neither report is connected to Bethel Church's ministry. So they are finding things that meet those qualifications that look like legitimate miracles have happened, and they're submitting those to peer-reviewed journals, and Bethel is not one of the churches that is on the list. Can I tell you, you're much more likely to be healed at your Southern Baptist church where half the people are cessationists, and they don't talk about healing that much, but you come in and the pastors pray over you or things like that. You're more likely to be healed there than you are at Bethel, because Bethel is an anti-healing Christ church. They are anti the message of Christ. They're anti the true gospel, and they're anti the God of Scripture. And we can look at just what they say, what they do, and who they associate with. If you're going to bring Kenneth Copeland in to preach and say he is one of the truest men of God, you've sold your soul. It's no good, right? I don't know how else to convince you of that. So are you surprised? Leave a comment down there. Are you surprised that Bethel actually has done no miracles? And if you like this shorter kind of video, what other subjects would you like me to cover? Anyways, that's all for now, and we'll be back with some more long extended interviews this month. Don't forget to like and subscribe so the almighty algorithm can share this information with other people. Take care.